Have you ever stopped to wonder why North and South Korea, once a single entity, are now so vastly different? The tale begins in the aftermath of World War II in 1945, when the Korean peninsula, previously a single nation, was divided into two zones: the North, under the influence of the Soviet Union, and the South, under the United States. This division marked the birth of two distinct governments. In the North, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea was established, a state modeled on Soviet-style communism. South of the 38th parallel, the Republic of Korea was formed, following a democratic and capitalistic model. Two halves of a whole, yet with entirely different ideologies and political systems, born out of the same land and the same people. This division was more than just geographical. It was ideological, it was political, it was cultural. In a few short years, a single nation was split into two diametrically opposing entities, setting the stage for a tale of two Koreas. As the dust of World War II settled, two new nations were born, each with its own unique path. Out of the ashes of the Japanese occupation, the Korean peninsula was divided into North and South Korea, each adopting vastly different political ideologies. Let's first turn our attention to North Korea. Under the leadership of Kim Il-sung, it embraced a communist regime, heavily influenced by the Soviet Union. The government exercised tight control over all aspects of society, from the economy to the media, and even the personal lives of its citizens. It was a world apart from the democratic ideals that were taking root in the South. South Korea, on the other hand, guided by leaders like Syngman Rhee and later Park Chung-hee, followed a democratic path, albeit with its own set of challenges. It became a place where individual freedoms were valued, where a market economy thrived, and where Western influences started to shape the culture. The ideological differences between the two nations inevitably led to conflict. The Korean War erupted, a brutal and devastating conflict that lasted 3 long years, from 1950 to 1953. This war deepened the division, creating a chasm that would be hard to bridge. In the aftermath of the war, both nations adopted different economic models. North Korea, following its communist ideology, implemented a centrally planned economy. Everything was controlled by the state, from factories to farms. Meanwhile, South Korea embraced capitalism. It championed free trade and industrialization, transforming itself from a war-ravaged nation into a global economic powerhouse. These early decisions, these seeds sown during the formative years of both nations, had profound impacts on their development. They shaped the societies, the economies, and the lives of the people living in these two nations. The stark differences we see today between North and South Korea can be traced back to these divergent paths chosen over 70 years ago. The seeds sown during these early years would grow into the stark differences we observe today. In the ensuing decades, the paths of North and South Korea diverged dramatically. Post-war, South Korea embarked on a journey of rapid economic development. With a focus on industrialization and technology, it transformed from a war-torn nation into a global powerhouse. The South Korean government fostered growth by investing heavily in education and infrastructure, and by encouraging entrepreneurship. This led to the rise of conglomerates or chaebols such as Samsung, LG, and Hyundai, which now dominate the global market in electronics, automobiles, and more. Today, South Korea is the world's 12th largest economy and a beacon of technological innovation. In stark contrast, North Korea took a different path. Its centrally planned economy, coupled with international sanctions and isolation, resulted in economic struggles. The country's focus on military might and nuclear power came at the expense of its people's well-being. Years of famine and economic mismanagement have led to widespread poverty and a lack of basic human necessities. But the divergence isn't just economic, it's social and political too. North Korea is one of the world's most repressive states, with a government that tightly controls all aspects of life. Human rights are severely curtailed, and dissent is not tolerated. It's a stark contrast to South Korea, which is a vibrant democracy, where citizens enjoy a wide range of freedoms, from the right to vote to freedom of speech and assembly. South Korea's journey to democracy wasn't easy. It went through periods of military rule and political unrest, but the perseverance of its people, their desire for democratic freedoms, and their commitment to human rights, led to the establishment of a democratic system that is now deeply rooted in the society. In the game of nations, the two Koreas started at the same line, but as they ran their races, their paths diverged. One chose a path of openness, innovation, and democracy, The other chose isolation, military focus, and repression. As the years rolled on, the gap between the two Koreas widened both economically and socially. So, where does that leave us today? Fast forward to the present, and we find two nations, each with its own unique narrative. South Korea, an economic powerhouse, has embraced democracy and technological innovation. It's a nation that never sleeps, with Seoul's neon lights reflecting the hustle and bustle of a vibrant society. Meanwhile, North Korea, under the iron grip of the Kim dynasty, remains one of the world's most secretive states. Despite international sanctions, it has managed to develop nuclear weapons, causing concern across the globe. The tension between the two Koreas continues, yet there's a glimmer of hope. Recent summits between the North and South signal a desire for dialogue, and the involvement of other countries, including the United States, hints at a possible path towards peace. The tale of the two Koreas is a stark reminder of how political ideologies can shape the destiny of a nation. So, why are North and South Korea so different? To comprehend this, we journeyed through the pages of history, starting from the division of the Korean peninsula after the Second World War. This division led to the birth of two nations, each adopting a drastically different political ideology. The North embraced communism while the South chose democracy. The Korean War further deepened this divide, setting the stage for the divergent paths the two nations would tread. Through different economic models, South Korea emerged as an economic powerhouse, while North Korea grappled with economic challenges. We also pondered on the glaring human rights issues in North Korea, juxtaposed against the vibrant democracy in the South. The current situation, fraught with tensions, continues to evolve. As we delve into the pages of history and examine the present, we realize that the tale of the two Koreas is far from over. It continues to unfold, with the world watching closely.